Thank you, Mr. Bhandari, for having ET now.
Good morning, Nikunj. Welcome to Thermax.
Thank you very much. It's a lovely state-of-art technology. Congratulations. So tell our viewers, where are we right now?
Okay. You are in Pune at the heart of our water facility.
Okay.
It's a brand new plant that we started in April this year. When we started, we thought in 2 to 3 years, we will be able to fill this plant up. It is meant to do about 500 to 600 crores of capacity. It's a beautifully constructed green plant in every which way. Majority of the electricity comes from solar. 98% of the water that comes out is recycled. We have got rainwater harvesting, variety of new technologies to make this as a complete green, compact building. I love also the idea that this is at the heart of India's sustainability journey and India's manufacturing journey also. Because here we are building solutions that will help India address its water problem, industrial primarily, but even commercial and residential. But by building products that are meant for India with technology that we develop out of India. So very excited.
So when I entered into the factory premise, there was a big board which essentially was also a very proud board which says that this power plant is fueled by solar energy.
Yes.
Which means everything here is actually green. The spirit is green, the power is green, and the vertical which you're addressing is also green.
Completely true. Yeah, that is the exciting part. And in some ways, that's the transition that we are talking about at Thermax, which is to build a company that is a partner to our customers as our customers go through energy transition, which means we need to be able to develop solutions that are part of this and also imbibe this ourselves as well. And all our new buildings are good examples of that. And what we are trying to do for the world and for India, we first have to show we can do it for ourselves.
So I'll start with the energy space.
Sure.
The street is divided as to where the future of energy is. You have Tata Power, who's officially gone on record and has said that we will not invest in thermal energy. But you've got the likes of NTPC and other utilities which continue to invest into energy. So for Thermax, which is a solution provider, you need to be future ready. Which way are you leaning? The thermal way or the green way?
Look, I don't think it is a question of one or the other. For a country like India, energy availability and sustainability have to go hand in hand. If power needs are growing at 8 to 10%, which is the expected forecast, we need to make sure that we have a lot of new energy sources from renewable energy, hydrogen, a variety of new capabilities coming in. But simultaneously, we need to think about how do you make traditional thermal power plants cleaner burning, better. Yeah, which means if there are technologies around making thermal energy cleaner, more efficient, carbon capture, coal gasification, ultra supercritical power plants, I think it is important that Indian companies work on these elements as well because they are part of an energy transition journey. And the Prime Minister also has spoken about cutting down our energy intensity. So making coal cleaner reduces energy intensity, makes coal better and more efficient. And for Thermax, we want to play in all solutions that work towards energy transition.
Every company follows a life cycle. Even products, they follow a life cycle. Can I say the green energy business for Thermax is in its young stage? And the thermal energy business is perhaps in a mature stage, which means that high growth will not come there. And for the young business, which is the green energy business, the growth is going to be high.
Look, largely correct. I do think the green energy business is in its infancy. A lot of these newer spaces are barely, they're like not even crawling. Yeah, they've just been born. They have a while to go before they get up and run. Thermal is a 200-plus-year-old technology, very well understood. That said, the only caveat I would give is that India, because of its energy shortage, is going to go through a wave where thermal will come back for maybe one more wave. Yeah, and the next 3-4 years, there'll be a lot of new thermal power projects also coming in. But if I take a 10-year look, what you're saying makes complete sense.
So would you be investing less in thermal going forward then?
In terms of our investment, where our energy is going, where our capex is going, where our R&D is going, our partnerships are going, they are all on the new energy side for the most part. Yeah, there's some parts where we continue to work on the thermal side, And those are established technologies that we have had for a long time. But our focus is entirely, in terms of our investments, is on the newer energy sides.
Can I say this entire pivot at Thermax has been a conscious move but has got accelerated after COVID, because that's the time there were PLI schemes which came in, China plus one rhetoric became strong. So has the pivot been largely accelerated after COVID?
Very much so. And I would actually point out a very specific meeting that we had, which was 2021. It was right after COVID. And that was a period where we could step back and not talk about the immediate quarter, because those were all bad quarters. There was nothing going on. So we took a period which was 2030, a little further away from our day-to-day stuff. And we looked at that period to talk about what the world would be and what can Thermax do to succeed in that world. And that world was very clear that it was all around many of the new capabilities we have to grow. So that forced us to come back and say we need to accelerate our investments, our capabilities, and many of them will come with risk. Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market in terms of policy, in terms of technology, in many of these areas. But not jumping in is not an option. So we'll get in and we will work it quarter by quarter, year by year, in terms of increasing our capabilities.
Now, for any company to stay young and to go through ups and downs and peaks and troughs of market dynamics, it has to have a distinctive moat.
Yes.
What are you doing at Thermax to really expand your moat so that in a competitive environment you stand out?
Okay. There are three particular skills to me that seems like that Thermax is good at. Yeah, first, Thermax's access to customers across the industrial spectrum of India. When I joined Thermax nearly 5 years ago, I was amazed that the company touches everything from food and beverage, pharma, chemicals, right up to the other end of steel, refining, and some of our largest customers. The spectrum of these companies, the way Thermax touches with services, with products on the energy segment, is something that is unique. Yeah, and so our ability to touch those customers through distributors, our direct teams, is something that gives us a strength. The second is its history of developing products. Yeah, India historically has not had industrial companies outside of automotive build good products. Thermax has that know-how of building good products and is getting better and better. And you will see some of these examples out here where we want to build products that are good, not just for India, but can stand the standard world over anywhere. And we are doing that through our exports and everything else that we do. The third in my mind is engineering and technology, which means we can take on difficult problems, and boilers is a good example. Some of what we do in boilers is unique anywhere in the world. We work on cool technologies around absorption chillers, etc., which is very unique technology, which we have done decades to hone and perfect. So our ability to apply technology, put them into products, and connect them with customers who we have access to, this trifecta in a way is our moat. Yeah, and this is the moat that we want to continue to spread around and add more and more products and capabilities as part of this.
But is the entire business which Thermax is in, it's engineering, it is built around IP and engineering capabilities. It has a lot of cyclicality, and that's how businesses move. There is a cycle in India when the private sector will start expanding.
Sure.
The cycle in India when government will start expanding.
Sure.
What are you doing to ensure that there is secularity in your growth and not cyclicality?
Completely. And I don't think for me, the excuse that you are dependent on cyclicality is not good. The kinds of products we do, of course, there will be a bit of cyclicality. But our customers are going through a change which in a way is a much longer term change. And so for us, investment in services, getting much, much deeper in services. We track services growth extremely closely, work very closely on services-based initiatives, especially right now, because tomorrow, when a cycle is going through a different pit, the services portfolio will continue.
When you say services, is it IT? Is it
No. Product related, maintaining
Okay.
them, optimizing them, upgrades, retrofits, spare parts, long-term service contracts,
The AMCs, I would say.
AMCs, everything.
How large
yeah.
is that for you as percentage of your total business?
So today, as a percentage of our overall business, it's 10%.
Okay.
Yeah, but it has the potential to grow much, much bigger. We are doing build, own, operate models, and some of those are fascinating because we are getting into contracts where we go to customers and say, I'll provide you steam, power, water, completely green for industrial purposes on a 10-year contract on a build, own, operate basis. So you pay on a per use basis. So this also brings a portfolio of business which will be steady. Yeah, completely. Investments in digital, international, that also reduces cyclicality. India may not be doing well, but the world overall, there'll be markets that will be doing well. So there's a lot that we can do to take this cyclicality out of the discussion. I really don't think of Thermax as a capital goods company. I think of ourselves as in clean water, clean air, clean energy company. And I think these three themes will continue for a few decades, at least in my living life or my working life. I don't think I need to worry about moving away from this.
Can I say Thermax is a family-owned business but run by professionals? And that's a big pivot which has happened, I mean, it's happened a few decades ago.
I think that happened a few decades ago. I think for me coming in from GE that I came to Thermax, I haven't seen any difference in how professionally Thermax runs in every which way. It's a professional board, professional promoters, and in some ways a professional leadership team as well.
Without getting into specifics of numbers, for next 3 to 5 years, do you see enough and more visibility, or right now there are too many macro, headwinds which are difficult to encompass?
Look, there could always be headwinds here. We don't know what the future will bring about. But as I see what I see around us, I am hugely optimistic. And this plant is a good example. If you came in April...
What do we have here? What do we have here?
So what we have right now, it's a plant for water. So it makes solutions for everything that you need for cleaning water before it's used. And after you use it, how do you clean it back up before you release it back for disposal in any which way?
This is industrial usage.
Industrial and commercial, no residential, relatively less residential. Residential is a small part of what we do. We have no consumer. Yeah, so we do some residential, some commercial, largely industrial. Everything from desalination, tough to treat water, RO, ETP, waste treatment process. You're putting a chemical plant, you will have effluent, we'll treat that effluent. This has got solutions all around that. And technology is changing. Previously, India was not, 75% of industrial water was let go. Yeah, we never monitored also. It was let go in our rivers, making our rivers dirty and all. That is not happening anymore. They are focused now, either the companies and the regulations are getting stronger. So the push is on making that water cleaner and come out better. And plants, and there is no water available. India has no water available. We can barely have water available for drinking. So the push on green capability, sustainable water recycling, that's just one theme. I don't see that theme going away for the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah, newer plants that are coming in, if anything, are needing more advanced capability. They are coming in saying, I want desalination solutions, I want more advanced stuff to treat water. Then you are going into food and beverage, cheeses, variety of different things. The technology ramp up is only going up. And I see that theme in many places. This plant we thought will be this busy a year from now. The ramp up has been much faster than what we expected. And to me, while people talk about private capex, on the ground, across industrial plants, I'm seeing capex pick up. It may not be on the largest projects that are happening, but across segments and sectors, I'm seeing private capex pick up. And wherever I'm going to multiple geographies, this last quarter was a little soft after the elections, but our pipeline continues to be strong, and the demand for newer solutions, differentiated capabilities is higher than ever before.
So what you've lost in the last quarter, you think you will be able to make it up in coming quarters?
I do expect to make it up in coming quarters. And certainly as we monitor our pipeline and our orders, expectations, etc., it gives us some amount of bullishness. I don't think the kind of world we had 18 months ago where things were just flying, that's the world we are in. But good growth is there to be had with good solutions. And this plant is a great example of that.
Okay, so let me use a hurdle rate here just to establish a point for our viewers.
Sure.
India's nominal GDP is about 10 to 11%.
Yes.
Right? That's the growth which is for granted for next few years.
Nominal GDP, real GDP being a little lesser.
6 to 7%.
6 to 7%.
So the benchmark becomes that can Thermax continue to beat India's nominal GDP for 3 to 5 years on a CAGR basis? So I'm not getting into specifics, but directionally, is it possible?
Of course, it should be possible, yeah. And doing that should be the least of Thermax's expectations.
So what's the yardstick you set up when you measure growth? Is it competition? Is it India's GDP? Is it an aspirational turnover number? What's your benchmark?
It differs by business to business. There are businesses where we have good competitive information and capabilities. There we monitor market share and we monitor growth of overall segments. In places that we are doing something new, in fact, our growth rates are not even revenue and cost related. Yeah, they are more driven by capability and competency. In a particular year, have we developed a certain competency, certain capability? How many installations? Not worrying about market share or anything else. So it changes business to business. And Thermax right now, given the breadth that we have, there is no one yardstick that I use for looking at how are we doing across the spectrum. But in businesses that are traditional, we look at profitability, return on equity, growth, everything compared to cash generation, compared to best in the industry, and general trends as well.
So the business in which you are currently investing in, where do you think they can be scaled up to? And what is your internal hurdle rate in terms of return on capital and return on equity?
So return on capital, again, returns differs by business to business. There are certain businesses like chemical where we think the return on equity expectations is somewhat less in terms of the risk that we see in those projects is less. Renewable in certain sectors, the return on equity expectations are slightly lesser. Many other plants like our water plant or our build own operate models that we get into, there the return on hurdle expectations are higher. Yeah, we expect closer to a 20% return on equity on some of those projects. I think in some ways, look, in many of the newer areas we are getting into, I think the question is not just around financial returns. You have to be able to take a 5-10 year look at certain segments and say, this is capability that I need to develop. So you will go through a couple of quarters which are difficult, and we are having some of such businesses as well. And we have shown those in our recent quarterly results also, where you talked about our earnings overall from a percentage basis coming down a little bit.
I just want to establish for the benefit of our viewers that if you look at great companies, and Thermax is a great company, companies that tend to pivot. Reliance started as a textile company and now they've diversified into energy, telecom, retail. How many businesses Thermax will pivot into, and what would be that year or perhaps that time when the new business becomes much larger than the old business? Because that's the time margins go higher, return on capital goes higher. Shareholders will start looking at your company with a different lens. You know, traditionally I'm used to looking at Thermax means boiler. Now for us, Thermax is water, air, energy.
See, if I take a look at when Thermax is not a conglomerate, yeah, and at least in the period that I am seeing, I don't think we will be a conglomerate. Our space is around energy and environment. That's the place that we play in, and industrial. Yeah, we're not going into consumer or anything. That space itself is so large that it gives us a lot of opportunity to play and do new things. And that is where we will be doing new things. I think in our internal estimates, we expect that more than 50% of the Thermax that we will see in 2030 is in this rudimentary phase. That will be the new Thermax in our view.
So do you see a situation where while the profitability and margins will go higher, but top line may not grow at that same rate? Because if you are exiting your traditional bread and butter business, that was still high on turnover. It may be low on margins, but it was high on turnover.
I don't know if that is entirely true. In fact, our core business right now is actually our most profitable, and based on India's industrial growth and our strength, is actually growing
You're talking
reasonably.
about the boiler business.
Boiler, water, all of them. Water has got increasing margins. Water was in the last 4 years, this business has nearly tripled.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and while we are doing that, we are improving profitability as well, investing in new plants. That theme will also happen in chemicals, in some of our chillers, in hydrogen, in variety of different areas that we are talking
So
about.
again, to break it up for our viewers, just like an FMCG company, they've migrated from a sabun ka batti to a powder to a dishwash. That is a migration of Thermax. You would be in energy, you would be in energy solution, just that you would innovate so much that the margins will keep on expanding.
I hope so. And not only will the margins expand, you hope you can be more relevant to your customers. As our customers go through this big energy transition, our ability to do new things for them, that is what brings us to work every day.
So for Thermax to do well, what has to do well?
What has to do well? A, India has to do well. And two, the world has to say that climate change is important and we need to solve this. Yeah, that is it.
Okay. India, in the foreseeable future, if I look at all macro data, looks like we are in a sweet spot. At least one concern is taken care of. Climate, everyone is indicating and claiming the investment is only going to increase, and there would be grants and there would be special subsidies which would be given in. There is one more element which perhaps we ignored, which is the China factor.
Okay.
And when you are competing at a global level, you have to work on merit. And that's where you compete with China. What I understand, what I hear, is that China still is large, they still have scale, and they can still eager to dump without being price conscious. Is that a problem for your exports?
In many, many cases, especially in export markets, we compete against Chinese companies. And competing against Chinese companies on price is extremely difficult. Yeah, where we compete, we do very well is when customers have unique needs which are not solved by an off-the-shelf product. Yeah, when you need to be in front of the customer, understand the application, say this is how this solution gets addressed, develop the solution, focus on execution, commissioning, and actually making the equipment work. Those are things that Thermax can do very, very well. Yeah, I was in Saudi very recently, and one of the world's largest food and beverage players had a plant where they make potato chips. At the potato chips, the water vapor that comes from frying the potato chips, Thermax gave an application where we took all the heat from the water vapor to drive a chiller that gave cooling to the whole place. And we took the water, recycled it, that could be used then for potato washing and everything else. When you have to do an application like this, then Thermax comes to its fore.
It's just that it's there in front of you, and you don't know how to solve it, and that's the time you find a solution. Like
that's when you come up with a solution.
Mother of invention.
And if it's in the energy and environment space, Thermax is your partner.
Okay, before we wrap, I just want to know one thing. How do you keep yourself up to speed with technology, changes, disruption? How do you personally keep yourself up to speed with that?
It's part of my job. I get to talk to a lot of wonderful people like you. And then sometimes it feels like that is all that I do. Yeah, but talking to customers, talking to policy holders, reading a lot. Yeah, and in some ways, at the age that you get to, your 30 years of work experience has prepared you for asking some of those right questions, giving you some insights into the industry. But I don't claim to be a guru by any means. I think in many of these newer areas, I am learning just as much as anybody else.
So how does your day start? How does your day end?
My day starts relatively early. I get to office somewhat early as well. Depends on the day of the week. I'll either go to the gym, come back, but the initial first 2 hours, 3 hours are just mine. Yeah, that's my thinking time, my reading time, my taking care of stuff. And then the day just flows. Either if I'm not traveling, it's reviews all through the day. If I'm traveling, I love meeting customers. I love listening to them, visiting our installations, traveling internationally to go to our plants. It just flies by.
Well, it's been a half an hour of chat and time has just flown by. We came here with a lot of curiosity, but we are going back with a lot of knowledge. Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting ET Now.
Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
There comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits. And then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.